Hello, all. I'm Darby Berkey with the Rockwall Area Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to the Chamber's legislative update with Senator Bob Hall, where we are continuing to connect the community. Senator Hall is a retired U.S. Air Force captain and business owner. Thanks for your service, Senator Hall. Senator Hall has been serving the Texas Senate since 2015, and we are honored to welcome you today, sir. We are also joined by the chairman, our incoming chairman of the board, Eva Hummel, and current legislative chair. She is the manager of public affairs for Atmos Energy. So thanks to you both for being with us today to offer this legislative update. First, I'd like to ask you, Senator Hall, if you'd like to share a few words about this first half of the session. Maybe tell us what your committee assignments are and really how those roles might directly affect our community here in the Rockwall area.
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on. I appreciate it very much, and I will say that this has been I guess the best word I could use is an interesting session. It has certainly been different than the three previous ones down here, in that the COVID had a profound impact on what we could do, or what we ended up doing, not what we could do, but what the choices were, which slowed things down significantly. I would say the good news out of it was that while there was a strong push to limit public access and actually limit appearance even in the capital of legislators, there were many that wanted to stay at home and do all the committee hearings and floor work by Zoom or some equivalent to that. And thank goodness a few of us stood pretty strong that said, no, we've got work to do for the people and we need to be down there in person. And so that did prevail, so that the voting, whether in committee or on the floor, did not change. We have to be in committee and have to be on the floor. And we limited the Zoom use to selected invited testimony only. We still allowed the public to be here in person, and committee members had to be in person. And now the House had their own set of rules, and the Senate has their own set of rules with regards to testing and mask and distancing and things like that were set up. But it made for a much slower moving session down here. And as far as committees on, really blessed to be on some really good committees. First, I would say is on Veterans Affairs and Border Security, which I'm a vice chair of. And then I'm also on State Affairs, Education, Health and Human Services, and a new committee this year called Local, which addresses a number of issues that I guess by the name, it applies to local issues primarily. And then I'm also on the Sunset Commission. My second session of being on Sunset Commission. So it makes for a pretty big slate. And I would say that every one of those committees I'm on, there is an impact to the people of our district as a result of things that are being passed in every one of those. We have a strong military retirement, veterans presence, in particularly Rockwall. And of course, all the others would apply.
Goodness, you do have a full deck there of assignments. Thank you for representing us in each of those areas. I know that Eva has a few more detailed questions, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to her now.
Right. Well, thank you, Darby, and good morning, and thank you, Senator Hall, for being with us today. We certainly know, or who knew, that 2 years ago that we would begin the 87th legislative session in a pandemic. But, you know, we all pivot to what certain circumstances are, and things do look a little bit different this year, but the focus and commitment of the Senate and the House remain the same, and we thank you. I know you briefly did explain what the Capitol looks like and relates to COVID-19. Also, for people that are wanting to go to the Capitol for some of the hearings, what are the protocols there? How are they different? And is there anything changed with Governor Abbott's latest order?
Okay, well, take it in reverse. Nothing has changed in the Capitol with the governor's order, but what is required on the Senate side is that, well, let me start. Just to get into the Capitol, they have optional testing. It's a 15-minute test, just slightly invasive of the lower part of the nose. Takes about 15 minutes, and there's no charge for that, but it is optional to get into the Capitol. But in the Senate, the Senate offices have their own rules. That is, we make the rules for our office here for Senate District 2. And what I chose to do for this office was to make it as open as I could to anybody. So we do not require an appointment. We do not require a mask. It's optional. You certainly can make an appointment. It helps now that we're on the floor so much. If anybody wants to see me as opposed to staff, it helps in their timing to make an appointment. And you're certainly welcome to wear a mask if you feel that's important to you to do. However, in our committee hearings, they still do require that the people attending committee hearings do get a test before coming in, and that they wear a mask while they're in the committee rooms themselves. So that's pretty much what the odd rules are we have right now. And you can expect to see a lot of DPS officers when you're down here. The threat from Antifa and Black Lives Matter, from the destruction that they attempted to do last summer, the threat has really not gone away. It's DPS intelligence tells us that they are just waiting for an opportunity when we let our guard down to come back and do some more physical damage to the Capitol. So we have opted to keep DPS presence here. It's a little disconcerting to see that much what looks like military in our Capitol. And so the trade-off is the problems we have with groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa with their threats to the Capitol, that it's prudent to do that.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator Hall, and we certainly appreciate your open door policy of your offices too. So the question I have for you is, what legislation should we be paying attention to that may directly change how our local businesses operate?
Actually, I don't see anything that's actually going to have a direct impact right now that that's aimed directly at the businesses there in Rockwall. But keep in mind that no man's life, liberty, property are safe while the legislature's in session. And so who knows what's liable to pop up, but I don't see anything out there that specifically. I do know that our sunset legislation, the TDLR, which regulates a variety of occupations, may have some individual impacts, but I don't really see anything. There was nothing done that would be specifically significant for Rockwall.
Okay, thank you. Well, Governor Abbott's State of the State declared 5 emergency items. Can you share your thoughts on progress of these? We'll start with the first one, expanding broadband access.
Okay. Yes, that's one of the priority items, and Senate Bill 5 is moved through the Senate. I don't hear any opposition coming out of the House. Matter of fact, we're making sure that it is not just rural broadband, but those areas in the urban communities that are lacking in broadband get picked up. And so I expect that bill to pass, and hopefully we'll have an expansion. Many people question about the state getting involved in that, but I look at that like what we had to do with rural electrification. If the legislature, government had not stepped in several years back when electricity was only available in the cities, we probably still wouldn't have electricity in our rural communities. So this is I think is a proper thing for government to help get this expanded. So it can be a part of our rural communities' life as well as just the cities.
Okay. What can you tell me about passing laws that prevent cities from defunding the police?
That's an interesting challenge. It's one. There's a lot of debate on the role of the state in that. You can make an argument on both sides of it. It's unfortunately an issue that is not an issue in Rockwall. I have no doubt about that at all. It's an issue that is in some of just our larger cities, and they're looking at some penalties for those that decide they don't want to protect the citizens. I expect something to be done, but I don't expect that will have any impact in the Rockwall area on what's done there. We know how important our law enforcement is. It's an integral part of why Rockwall is such a wonderful place to be and live, is because of a relationship between our elected officials and our law enforcement. And I don't expect that to have any impact on Rockwall.
Okay, thank you. What can you tell me about fixing the flawed bail system?
Well, there are multiple bills, and some really kind of stretch the imagination in what they want to do in changing bail. Others make some reasonable changes that are needed to make sure that we don't allow really bad actors back out on the street to recommit their crimes or worse crimes. Senate Bill 21 by Senator Huffman is pretty much the front runner in this as far as a bill. It's been heard in committee, but it has not yet been voted out of the committee. But I do think that if that's the only of the bills passed, it will be a reasonable change to be made in making sure that people who should be in jail stay in jail, and we don't overly burden folks with bail when they should not be in jail.
Okay, thank you. So election integrity, so Texans can have trust and confidence in outcome of elections. What can you tell me about that?
Well, that's a good one. It's very high on the priority list among not only the people, but it's also with many of legislators. SB 7, which I'm a joint author on with Senator Brian Hughes from Senate District 1. We got it passed out of the Senate last week. It was one that I think we were there till early in the morning working on that one. With several amendments, I managed to place 6 amendments on the bill to improve election security. And I think we'll find that if we get this passed with a couple of other changes in addition to it, that we will significantly improve election security. And none of what I saw in that bill did anything to suppress the vote. The arguments against what we're doing here as being racist are totally specious. It is the argument the left makes whenever they have no legitimate argument on something. They will drop down to use the racist, play the race card, and that's what they did. Our Democrats used the race card on the floor, trying to sway the vote, but our good conservative folks, Republicans, stood fast and recognized that every one of the changes being proposed in SB 7 had a reason for being there and would significantly improve our elections. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we will never make an absolutely secure election, because as long as there is man involved in the process, we know that God tells us that man's heart is basically evil, and that that's what we're going to have to overcome. So all we can do with our bills is make it more difficult for those who want to subvert the system to subvert it. But one of the things that we do get out of this is a reduction in the error, opportunity for error, because there are many errors that are made that end up with vote results counts that do not reflect the will of the people. And we looking to reduce error as much as fraud itself. And so I do expect and hope we have to have a strong election integrity bill passed this session. And I think SB 7 does most of the job needing done. We've got a few changes or additions to it that if you go on my Facebook page last week, I did a presentation explaining how one of the most significant changes we could make to our election process is to go to an election event instead of having early voting, a 4-day gap, and then election day. If we were just to begin elections 17 days before the election day, run it straight on through as one event, it would be less costly, it would be easier to manage, and would produce more confident results in it. And of course, it includes a requirement there be a paper ballot. That's probably the single most important thing, and this bill does make that a requirement. Matter of fact, if in having paper as a requirement, there's some consideration being given to actually changing what we're doing, because we can't find a good reason to spend $3,500, $3,500 on a complex touchpad and computer that simply makes a mark on a sheet of paper when it can be done with a number 2 pencil that costs a nickel. And so what we currently have in very expensive and complex computer system actually degrades the security of our election system. And with some other changes in mind of going to a hand-marked paper ballot, we could significantly improve elections. And so hopefully we'll have some amendments coming along that will do that.
Okay, thank you, Senator Hall, for that information. And the last of the 5 emergency items, coronavirus-related civil liberty protections for individuals, businesses, and healthcare providers that operated safely during the pandemic.
Yes, Senate Bill 22, matter of fact, just passed out of State Affairs Committee this morning that does that. It's a bit still in the somewhat controversial stage in that some feel it goes too far in some areas, and other areas it doesn't go far enough. So I think we'll probably see some amendments and changes to that bill before it finally gets through the Senate. But we certainly we're working on it, because we do know, and we've already seen the actions of some folks trying to take advantage of the issues that came up in COVID with lawsuits, and that's the last thing we need. So I do think we'll have a bill. It probably will not satisfy everyone and won't cover everything that should be covered, but it will certainly be better than where we are right now.
Okay, thank you. In February, we experienced a historic winter storm. What proposed legislation may help prevent a situation like we experienced during this past storm?
Well, there are multiple bills out there that we just passed. Senate Bill 3, which was the major ERCOT PUC bill. Senator Charles Schwartner carried that bill, and it goes a long way in providing guidance and direction and requirements on ERCOT and the PUC to make the changes and improvements that are needed to make sure that some of the problems we encountered this winter won't happen again. In addition to that, we have our bills, SB 1606, that addresses the issue of other natural events and man-made events that could interrupt our power. As I pointed out in the hearing earlier this morning with one of the bills I laid out on an audit for ERCOT, that electricity is the 3rd most important thing to sustaining life. As we learned a couple of weeks ago, the only 2 things are more important than electricity are air and water. And then we learned that you really don't get much water without electricity. So that makes it really the 2nd most important thing to sustaining life. And so while weather and the issues associated with it are very important, We also have to recognize that we have things that are both natural with sunspots or GMDs and man-made electromagnetic pulse threats. We have to address those also. And so our bill 1606 will do that, as well as another bill we have that will require all of our power equipment be bought, be manufactured here in the United States. Unfortunately, we're currently purchasing a lot of our major transformers from China, and we have found malware in them. And so we're following through here in Texas with a bill that would do what President Trump's executive order that he passed, that Biden has now, I believe he has rescinded, that would require key equipment in our power grid system to be manufactured in the United States. So have not had a hearing on that bill yet, but hopefully we'll do so soon.
Okay, thank you. Well, we heard Governor Abbott's emergency priorities. So if you could, we have just a couple of minutes, if you could give me one of your priorities for this legislative session. I know you have several.
I do have several. It's hard for me to give you one because there are two or three that I have right up there at the top for different reasons. And one of them that has come to light that we've tried before was our interstate compact for border security, which would allow Texas to have more authority in actually protecting the people of Texas in light of what's now happening at the federal government level. But then again, we have another issue that most people are not even aware of, and that is the gender modification. That is surgery that is being performed on adolescents whose parents or otherwise feel that they should be a sex different than what they were born to be, and they want to have them surgically modified, changing them either from a boy to a girl by removing body parts. That is currently practiced here in Texas. We have a hospital down in Dallas that does about 400 of these a year, and one in Houston doing about the same number. And it's just amazing when a child under 18 cannot even get a tattoo, can be subject to having their body parts removed because that's what what a doctor wants to do or their parents want done. And so we're going to address that issue. And of course, the other is protection of our electrical grid. The time has come. People recognize that electricity is absolutely essential to life. And we've kicked that can far enough down the road. The problems we had this past winter, if you wanted to point a finger to say who is responsible for it, the only place you can point that finger is to the Texas legislature, which had failed to do its job up to now. And so it's time that we did it. So that would be my priority.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Well, that wraps up my questions. I'm going to go ahead and transition this over back to Darby so she can share some chamber announcements.
As always, we have a lot going on at the chamber. I just want to share two really quick important things with everyone today. First off, next Wednesday, we are having our Coffee and Candidate Forum at Rockwall Golf and Athletic Club. It'll be next Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. I hope to see everyone there. We will be hosting candidates from the contested races in Rockwall, Heath, Fate, and McLennan Chisholm, and of course, our school district board of trustees candidates as well. Our next important meeting we've got on our calendar is April 27th. This is our annual meeting and banquet style. We will be celebrating our community's resilience over the last year, celebrating some great things that happened in 2020 with our businesses. We'll be celebrating some business and community impact awards. So again, I hope that you all can join us. Please stay up to date with us by visiting our website, or our Facebook page also has our events listed, so you can get tickets and registrations available there. So I'll turn it back to you, Eva, to close this out.
All right. Well, Senator Hall, we certainly appreciate all the hard work and accomplishments of this past legislative sessions. We know that you are working really hard for the great state of Texas and District 2 this 87th legislative session. We look forward to future updates, and we thank you and your family for your service. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. And thank you guys for all of what you do to help make Rockwall the great community it is. You guys make a huge contribution, so I thank you. And I look forward to continue working with you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.